It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Hey, listen, I want to talk about the Joe Paterno thing.
Yeah.
We like to cover some current events because it really does reflect back to us as individuals something.
Big mirror.
It's a big mirror. And I know it's a big mirror for a lot of folks. So for those of you who are tuned into the whole Penn State crisis right now, Joe Paterno was recently fired. And
we have listeners, by the way, all around the world at this point. And so for their benefit,
that's good. That's
Joe
good call.
Paterno is the head coach of a renowned, nationally renowned
college football
program, and this program is a very storied one and has a record, an unrivaled and unparalleled record of success, and is squeaky clean. And the whole identity of the university is very much constellated around the squeaky clean, perfectionist nature.
Not anymore. Yeah,
And
what happened?
that has,
what happened for those of you out of town, England or Ireland or Australia or anywhere
Kuwait.
else? Yeah, Kuwait, especially those in Kuwait.
Mumbai.
Yeah. One of his assistant coaches had a foundation for underprivileged kids, and what they have come to understand is that he was molesting some of these young boys, and he was actually, in essence, caught in 2002 in the showers of the locker room with a 10-year-old boy. And it was reported to the coach, who then reported it to the president of the university, and it stopped there. Whatever actions they took were internal, and no one reported it to the police. And so for 9 years, in essence, this guy is still running this foundation and presumably victimizing more children. So now this is all blown up, and he was fired by the trustees of the university. And there's a lot of people scratching their heads, trying to make sense of this. And it's a big opportunity, in my mind, to look at some shadow pieces that are showing up in the collective experience and in this particular illustration of that experience. With regards to, I don't know, Barnet, how do you want to jump in with this?
It's so complex.
It is complex, and I don't want to be one-dimensional with it.
No. So,
and it's appropriate to struggle through it, by the way. I want to say that as well. That it
yes,
isn't.
there are no simple answers. There are no simple answers. For me, it is what comes up for me. What I am giving some attention to is it mirrors the disconnect between how we present ourselves and what is going on underneath that is either denied or hidden or not examined. And I don't mean to say that it certainly has nothing to do with inappropriate conduct, sexual conduct for me, or not necessarily for anybody else too. But it does mirror this disconnect between the image that I hold about myself, not necessarily, doesn't even have to be, though it could be, about what one projects to others, but even how I hold myself and what might be underneath that I am not in alignment with. So I don't have too many, I have no answers about that yet, but it is provoking an inquiry for me.
That's it.
Some things that have come up early is I do have an inclination to rush to judgment. There's a certain sort of righteous energy that that you only have to ask Sandy to that I have been in denial of forever. And that those closest to me certainly know is there. And so this kind of thing triggers my finger wagging, and
which is a real strong indication to do some reflection. The
Yes.
minute you know that you're in righteousness, the minute we find ourselves pointing or wagging our finger, it's a good moment to go, wow, what part of me has been activated?
What's the enrage? I suddenly go to the outrage.
Right.
But I don't pay too much attention to, well, what's the enrage that I'm only expressing the outrage of something. What am I so enraged about? Well, I'm enraged that this is so inappropriate and people's lives are, yes. And it's not exactly the same form, but where in my own life I tend to become enraged, or do I tend to become reactive without taking stock of what is the part of me inside, the function that I may not be in touch with, and yet I'm ready to kind of jump the gun and go to the level of form, acting out, but not really too intimate with what is underlying some of these actions.
And I'll share that a part of me that got triggered with it is this whole betrayal piece.
Yeah.
Which has been up for me. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
There's been a real experience of an internal experience of a triggering of the part of me, this aspect of my childhood where I felt betrayed and where I feel this playing out and being mirrored back to me. And it's a hard thing to own. It's a hard thing to have compassion for that part of us because it is so knee-jerk to jump to finger-wagging. It's I don't think this is true, but I'm going to say it, that it feels like an easier way to cope with the hurt or the sense of our own betrayal, and that we might be the betrayer. That's a rough cut to go, wow, well, what's being reflected here? What can I really own about this?
So far, until this very moment, when I heard you say that, this very moment is the first time I had a thought, about a compassionate thought, about the impact that this has had on the victims. I don't like to use that word, but there's the perpetrators and the victims. What is the impact on it, on those boys? And I haven't really, and not too far behind that is even what is the impact on the perpetrator.
Yes.
But I have not until this moment even gone.
That's the hard one.
Gone down the road far enough to have some sorrow, not pity, not sympathy, but from some sorrow, holding their experience in a way that allows me to feel connected and to be supportive without any kind of condescension. Or it's only in this moment that I've gotten that far. Up to now, it's just been reactivity. It's just been about the situation. I've been relating to a situation out of a righteousness, out of a, well, this is terrible, this is bad, this is wrong. Yeah. But not at the level of what is the human experience of those that are involved.
How do you approach it with an open heart? How do you begin to open up to all of the lessons, the valuable lessons in something that is painful? That is.
How do you do both?
Yeah.
How do you do that, and at the same time, this is there is a legal process
Absolutely.
that we have, and we have not. That needs to be followed.
Absolutely.
And that needs to be honored. That needs to be recognized, and that kind of justice. We live in a world where that needs to be played out, and simultaneously below
That's it.
There's a meta process.
And there's so much value in that process, the allowing ourselves to have compassion for all of the players in this human drama, because they are, as you said earlier, they're big mirrors. They allow us to see the parts of us, because we're all of them, in a particular way. As we look at this with an open heart and an open mind, we go, wow, we're all these players.
And what's it mirroring? What's it mirroring? You pick.
And again, if I personalize it, for me, there's a lot of betrayal and there's the part of me that wants to immediately, talking about the perpetrator. I'm not him. I could never be him. The minute I'm doing that, I'm missing the learning opportunity.
I may not be inclined to express that level of violence in the same form.
Right.
But in a totally different area, where am I self-abandoning? Where am I
Yes.
self-violating? Another piece that comes up as I speak is, here is one of the preeminent athletic programs in the country, a school and a community that prided itself maybe in an imbalanced, overly valued this aspect of themselves, and that decisions were made to
keep that intact.
That may have been that may reflect a certain energy of opportunism. That that the status quo is more valuable in this situation. Let's not rock boats. I don't know that to be the case, and it doesn't need to literally be the case, because the mirror is subjective. I cannot perceive what is not in me, and so there is. It begs the question: well, where do I self-abandon, and where do I
make nice?
Where do I sign up for in an opportunistic energy for the short view, without the respect, the dignity, the sense of vision, the sense of my own ethic, morality, value, my own impact on myself, on others, in terms of now and the longer view.
Yeah.
Where do I sell out? I sell out? Where's my inclination to sell out? What areas do I sell out?
Just what I love about this conversation is that the water cooler conversation is so reactive and superficial. And to have this kind of conversation, it involves a kind of wisdom, a kind of recognition. Again, it's such an opportunity. And to keep it at that level of us and them, and I could never be, and that's so horrible, and so forth and so on, versus go, wow, here's the opportunity to reflect the part of me where I self-abandon, where I don't want to look at something because I'm trying to keep a construct in place, an identified self
serve me in
that
the
I'm
short term.
projecting out into the world, and I couldn't, and it's such a threat to that, to look at these kind of dark aspects personally. And sometimes it takes these kind of glaring, unfortunate events to do that,
Where do I value my persona and my identity over my character and my principles?
Big time.
Where do I make choices? Well, and this is, this just rang, something's in my eye here. So, this rings... very true for me. Where do I make choices that serve the expedient at the expense of my values and my character? Because certainly, if you asked anybody at that university or anybody in that athletic program, they would all tell you that they are people good and true, and that they have values, and that they care, and all of that is true.
It is true.
And choices were made in the moment, short term, that were that violated the principles and the characters of each one of these individuals.
Absolutely.
And the whole structure around them for their own short-term interests. Abandoned the values of the team, of the sports team, of the institution, and their personal values. So where do I do that?
Everything that they say they stand for this is the loose pillar holding it up, and no one was willing to look at it.
And it's only a tap, tap, tap on the shoulder.
That's right.
For them, it is a tragedy. For us, it's a tragedy. But our ability to respond. Our individual ability to respond is activated. It's a tap, tap, tap on the shoulder. To if this is in my reality, then I have an opportunity to put it. It's a terrible, tragic development. But if there's any possibility of extracting any gold from it, any treasure from it, then I want to do that. I want to look into the darkness of that and find the light, even in the darkness. And in the finding of that light, in the finding of, well, where do I self-abandon for the short-term expedient, to own that, to forgive that, to be a little more mindful of it, I heal myself and the whole field. It all changes. Nothing changes until I do. And I use that, everyone, it's an individual inside-out job. These are mirrors. These are mirrors. I take it personally.
One of the things that's just come up in my mind, and I'll say it, is it reminds me a bit of, or one of the parts of my own experience that I felt I still feel very grateful for, is working with the recovering gang members and people in prison. More the gang members, because I did that more.
Can you be a recovering gang member? Is that the language, or an ex-gang member?
The language at Homeboy Industries, which is where
they used to call them recovering gang?
Was recovering gang members, yeah.
I guess because it's, as they say in The Godfather, I try to get out, but they keep bringing me back. It's that energy.
Yeah. And it's so to humanize the perpetrator, which I had the opportunity to do, because if you hear some of the things that these mainly men have done, it's pretty horrific. There's lots of violence. There's lots of violence in their experience, cyclical violence. And what was really interesting for me in working with them is I kept seeing myself in them. I kept seeing parts of me. I've never shot anyone. Lots of things they did I've not done, but I could. I see these ways in which I humanized them. That's the biggest challenge when something like this occurs, is to humanize the perpetrator, humanize everyone involved, so that we can have a level of compassion that involves wisdom versus that reactive mind where we want to cut out the part that we don't like. And
where
again,
we begin to
go ahead.
Forgive is a process. Just jump to it, but don't ever have to forgive the what happened. I don't ever have to forgive that. I know that there will be those that take issue with that. I don't feel personally that I need to forgive the what went down, but in order to free myself, when we don't forgive, we become the prisoners of that construct. So without having to forgive the what of the violence, I can have an understanding, compassionate understanding of whatever life conditions these perpetrators went through and these victims went through that brought them to that place. I can have some compassion about the why. So I can ultimately forgive the why without having to forgive the what.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And that, again, is empowering and liberating. And that level of consciousness is what was missing in the administrators and those who did not act appropriately, because they were so over-identified. And this is, again, a big reflection for me with how things ought to be and how they the identified self, the self I want to be projecting out in the world, that does not allow for the parts of me that I, in essence, don't know what to do with. That's what occurred. There's a part inside of this matrix that did not allow for, the awareness.
There's also a chauvinism in there.
You bet.
There's a huge chauvinism in there. There's this huge energy of feeling that this is so shameful.
That's it.
That it's so deviant as far as how men are held. That we just need to hush it all up.
It's a football program.
It's a football program. We're not going to even discuss it. And it's an odd sort of perversion of, it's so shameful that our desire to tuck in the shame trumps what is legal, trumps what we feel is moral. I wouldn't be surprised if that decision never was even weighed in that way. I think it's just that let's just tuck it under the rug. I mean,
Well, that's what happens.
We've seen that in some of the affairs in the Los Angeles diocese over the last few years.
Yes, indeed.
And in the church at large, where there is certainly the nuns that I've spoken to have a very different view of this.
It's a good point. It's a
very,
good
very
point.
different view of this. And I suspect that women would have a very different view of what's going on in this scandal as well. I don't know.
With that, we've run out of time, but it was valuable to discuss it at this level. It's something that I'm not sure is out there in the media, as it were, the sort of major media. So I'm glad that we had at Cutting Edge Consciousness the opportunity to talk about a football program today on the show, and the scandal that's unfolding.
I think we're out of time. We thank you all for listening to us and joining in the conversation with us, and we hope that you will listen again and listen to other shows that are on our site.
And comment. We like the conversation. So when you comment on the Facebook page, we appreciate that, and we encourage you to do more of that. So keep coming back to Cutting Edge Consciousness.